Mayor Pete Buttigieg has some strong feelings about President Jefferson. President Jefferson's very well-known connections to slavery and also to the way he treated some of his female slaves.
And so about a week ago, maybe less, he was asked about a memorial dinner that they had. It was a big fundraising dinner that they called the Jefferson Jackson dinner. And he said and there was talk about changing the name because of Jefferson, and he was down with that.
And he was down with that when that has sort of now spread to a bunch of other things. There are stories you've probably heard that Mayor Pete, if elected president, would want to remove the Jefferson Memorial. Well, we got him out in D.C. at Reagan National and put that question to him squarely. Here's what he said.
I know you expressed that you would like to see some of the states rename the Thomas Jefferson, things. I know because he had slaves. Would you also, if the president came to Washington, D.C., get rid of the Jefferson Memorial?
No, of course not. No, we're not trying to go back in time. It's just that when we're having, for example, Democratic Party events, I think for the future, we've got to think about who we're going to name them after. I think it'd be great, especially since our party is so focused on dealing with things like racial inequity in our time, that maybe we name some of our events after a person of color or after somebody who's even still living. We're deciding what to name things after for the future. We should make sure we do it in a way that really captures our values going forward.
It really does go to money as well. It's like, would you change money for the future and get Jefferson and whatnot? I mean, it's an interesting subject because the Confederate statues in the South, a lot of people want those down.
Oh, that's totally different.
Than the Jefferson Memorial?
Well, I'll tell you why. Number one, there's at least an argument to be made. Now, if I'm going to be quite candid with you, Thomas Jefferson is a slaver, and he was a man who raped his slaves and kept his children in slavery. So that's how I feel about that. However, there's at least an argument to be made that Thomas Jefferson made such great contributions to American society.
A lot of good things he did as well.
Right,
so you
he's
could
a
argue,
brilliant man that those things should be celebrated in some parts of American society.
Whereas you feel with Jefferson Davis,
there's no argument.
Right, I get your point, but it is a little bit of a slippery slope where you start, balancing.
No, to me, the Confederate States of America, those guys were treasonous, and they led an insurrection or rebellion against the United States. And the rebellion was quelled.
I'm not disputing that part. I'm just saying, where do you draw the line? Do you take him off currency and put other people on currency?
I think there's a way to talk about, putting people on currency in a way that empowers sort of other voices that haven't been traditionally included, right? Like Sacagawea, for example, when she was put on the $1 coin, was a great way of sort of paying tribute to part of our history that doesn't get a lot of attention.
But the question then is, who do you take off? Because that is an issue. I mean, who do you take him off currency?
I mean, the reality is that when we talk about America, we don't like to look at it back and talk about some of the sins and some of the people that have had to sacrifice for the country to be where it is right now. And a lot of the men that some people consider to be great also have a tremendous amount of blood on their hands. And if those legacies are being held up intentionally on purpose, and if we were going to look at our country through the lens of any type of moral consistency, we'd have to try to undo some of those things on purpose too.
And then you open that door, and it's just unbelievable.
I mean, I disagree with Mayor Pete on one thing. I think we are going back in time. We are looking back at things and saying that maybe this was not right.
The question I would ask is, what difference does it make? Like Thomas Jefferson, how is it going to? What's the big deal?
Well, do you have a memorial? Do you celebrate him, his contribution and all?
Sure. I mean, Thomas Jefferson wrote the Declaration of Independence. That'll never change.
I understand.